Have you ever considered what keeps the technological gears of our modern buildings running smoothly and securely? From the elevators you ride to the air conditioning that keeps you cool, there's a hidden network of smart devices working tirelessly behind the scenes. Welcome to FnPodcast, the show that demystifies technology in our everyday lives. I'm Felipe, this is Luis, and in today's episode, Detect to Protect, simplifying IoT security and building management. We're dividing, we're diving into the unseen world of IoT devices that power our buildings and the critical tools that keep them safe from cyber threats. Imagine a world where managing the complex web of these smart devices is as easy as a tap on your smartphone. That's the power of the right detection tools. But what happens when these tools are not in place, or worse, not up to the task? Join us as we explore the importance of a robust and efficient detection systems in ensuring the seamless and secure operation of IoT in building management. Let's get started and uncover how the right tech can make all the difference. Welcome again. We're here on episode number 6. We seem to be consistent with our other podcast. How do you feel about that, Luis?
Yeah, definitely. It's great to take on a week to week podcast here with you, Felipe. I think it's been a great opening of our minds in terms of what we do on a daily basis and how
Absolutely.
we can kind of convey these values that we see into a short episode for you guys to possibly get some value from and give us feedback as to what you take away, what you don't, etc. It's been great. And with this week's topic on IoT and building management, there's quite a lot of experiences we've seen, especially being in South Florida. There's quite a lot of buildings.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's many examples of IoT being deployed the right way and the wrong way, and we're here to talk about it.
And it goes to show, and we've experienced some first time appointments or assessments we've done for certain buildings, and upon the assessment, and we did one last year. We are running into architecture that's deployed incorrectly or not being managed, or just a lot of inconsistencies or non-security protocols implemented. You can talk about a little bit about what to do, what not to do, and stuff. Where the use case that we experienced this week.
Definitely. So in recent example, specifically with the building we manage, it's quite a large building. They have an elevator network, which thankfully they do. A lot of buildings tend to mix elevator network with XYZ, especially older buildings with not too much IT behind them. Like they pretty much have a flat network. Everything's there: Sonos devices, elevators, fire alarms. You can name it. Every type of device that's out there, it's now getting an IP address, and it's if the company or property management company doesn't have good IT behind them, it's going to live in the same network, which is horrible for obvious reasons on security.
And most of the buildings we've been able to take over was either a one-man show, or if not, slightly bigger IT company that was doing a poor job. So, a lot of times the misconception of these buildings when we approach them is like, oh, why is there a huge difference in cost versus what the existing IT one-man show is providing? Well, that's exactly it. They're not doing any management. They're not doing any cybersecurity. I mean, these buildings, the amount of IoT devices that it contains is enormous, right?
It's increasing, yeah. So talking a little bit about the growth there is all these vendors, Siemens, for example, is one that we've seen, and there's plenty of others like Otis. There's one for elevators. They all have now smart systems, so which
Right.
is great for property management. Hey, you get detection as to elevator, not even detection, control. You can swing out. You
functionality
can make
that makes
elevators be
everyone's
called
life
by the front
easier.
desk to go up and down. You can, have fire alarms on the network so they can call to emergency services over voice over IP. You have all these new internet-based protocols being tied into the building solutions. Now there's things where you can change the AC, temperature, all these things via IP. The problem is that if you don't have a well orchestrated network with the right provider, maintenance is going to be a big issue because what we've seen is these vendors are very, a tunnel vision into their systems. I just want an IP. I need to get to XYZ internet. I don't
Oh
care how
yeah,
you get me there. This is all I need. And a lot of times, if these property management companies don't have the right IT behind them, they'll just provide an IP where their computers lie, where the printers lie, where the Sonos system lies, and then you
just to finish the job.
just to finish the job. Hey, sign off. I got the completed this, but what happens is now you have IP conflicts to deal with. You have potential threat actors to deal with. All these other risk factors that from a technical perspective is avoidable if you have the right segmentation, which is what we typically have done in networks is have a dedicated network per IoT uh, device or vendor. So in this case, this week, think we saw this pay off where the elevators actually went down in terms of being able to control them through their dispatch system, and we quickly were able to detect through our monitoring system that one of the switches was not providing IPs correctly, and two, we were able to see, hey, this network, this VLAN specifically is the issue, and we're able to very easily trace where the problem lies. If we had to deal with this again on a network that had no segmentation, I could tell you instead of it being a 1 hour ticket, it might have been
Days.
multiple hours, time and materials, expenses, T&M expenses on the vendor side, so more money spent,
Our
our
resources, right?
resources
I mean,
spent
imagine the amount of people, and we were able to do it remotely, right?
remotely. Yeah,
So the other uh, alternative to that would be multiple manpower on site trying to, traverse the network, see where the issue lies. So these tools help us detect and see where those issues surface, because technology is always going to be an issue, right? Whether you're spending a lot of money on a simple switch or not, they could all have a bug or some type of network issue where a simple power cycling or something like that can fix it. But there's always going to be probably network issues for the most part.
exactly. And speaking specifically to those who are managing larger infrastructure, campus, of a building, whatever, you know, I I'm sure you guys have all seen every vendor come in with a device on the network. An
Very common.
IP is becoming extremely common. So if you're in that position, I would recommend, if you can, make sure you have a dedicated network for each and every vendor. If you can kind of keep them all separate, that's going to help you avoid a lot of headaches, a lot of the finger pointing, and that's one thing we always see as well is in these networks is finger pointing. Hey,
Oh,
this is
absolutely.
this is an issue here, is an issue there, and that's money. Ultimately, anytime you hear finger pointing, it's money because now you gotta pay more to actually find out the truth. And one of the best ways to start at understanding the truth is keeping everyone separate and having a detection system. Hey,
Complete visibility.
do I get an alert if I stop seeing an uh, an elevator system online? Do I have any detection there? Here at Function, we've been working very hard to make sure we have detection now, even on IoT devices, because a few years ago it was just, hey, all I need to do is monitor for server uptime and core switches. But now it's becoming, oh, hey, that that meter monitoring is actually really important too, because I also need to know if the fire alarms are on, etc. So it's increasingly getting more and more tedious to manage these IoT systems, which is why we are a big proponent of the right tools. In our case, we are leveraging heavily network monitoring tools to make our jobs
Yeah,
that much more
and
efficient.
we're lucky to be dealing with, kudos to this manager that's on the property, because he supports us tremendously, and knows the value that we bring, and the technology that we use to provide a better service. A lot of times we get a lot of pushback, and just, property management companies trying to save a buck or two, and they don't realize the efforts that it takes to manage a huge building. You're talking thousands of IoT devices that you have to, account for. And that's a good segue into, this article that I want to share. Basically, in this in this article, you'll see, last year, that a group of cybersecurity experts purposely hijacked about 28,000 unsecured printers. This is just printers, just basically to raise awareness, on printer security. It just goes to show you how some a group, a person or a group of hackers can take over, a network. And basically, in this article, they use IoT search engines to basically search for open devices, and common protocols that are used for printers. They targeted 50,000 printers. They were able to hack 27,000, basically a 56% success rate. And this is just printers. Imagine just the amount of IoT devices at any given network, especially condominium buildings. You got, what are some examples? You got, smart elevators, fire alarms. You know, I think,
Camera systems.
recently we did a Sonos, right?
Yeah.
For this condominium. Even down to like one day, the receptionist wants to bring a smart lamp, and connect it to the Wi-Fi, without knowing. How would you even know she would do that if you weren't detecting? Is basically, the idea there. So it's good to keep track of all these devices as they come online. So we're constantly getting emails of new devices that are detected, and whether allow it or not, if they're approved or not by the manager. So we work closely with, blacklisting or whitelisting devices, applications, etc. Um, the next question, we're talking a lot about, the vulnerabilities, potential hackers accessing all these IoT devices, and the amount of IoT devices in buildings. How Now the next step is, how do you protect these buildings from that? I know we've talked about detection and stuff like that, but is there a baseline that we can implement, or infrastructure organizations can implement, so that they cover their bases? Now it's not just only detection, right? Like, how do you secure these ports, these devices?
Definitely. Yeah, I think ultimately you have to balance your operational needs with that area risk. So I mean, really practically, it's you can't just, hey, I'm gonna put in a switch, put a VLAN, and hope everything works well, because then you're gonna have an outage somewhere. So a lot of times the first thing is communication with these vendors, and say, hey, look, I know you're my elevator company. I know you reside here. We're going to take on a project with this XYZ IT company to move you into a dedicated network. I need some assistance for either product manual. I need to know the impact of changing re-IPing devices, or um, what's the scope there, and really trace out the impact. So it's just kind of like going back to our previous episodes where we talked about change control. So the first thing is drafting a plan,
Scope of work.
a scope of work. A lot of times, if you have a local IT company in your area, if they're worth their weight in salt, they'll help you out with this. Because most of the time, the vendors don't really have too much incentive to go about this with you. They'll just like I said earlier, try to make it work and get the invoice paid.
It's
So
safe to say that no vendor should be going in there and connecting anything into an infrastructure, right? Is that a
yeah,
valid
I
point?
mean,
What do you guys think?
I think that's true. I think nothing should be connected into your network unless you know about it, and if you don't know about it, that's probably the first step, right? So why don't you know about it? So in this case, we talked earlier about detection tools. So detection is a great start. Planning, once you already know what's on your network, planning around it. So critical assets, create a priority list. In this case, I would probably do emergency services, so fire alarm, burglar alarm. Uh, Elevator network, any payment networks too, which depending on how far you're into the PCI requirements, you may need to have further restrictions than others. Just depends on how exposed you are, which that's probably a separate
Right.
podcast at that point, just hinting to that. But in all aspects, the basics for any business owner or property management company is: do I have a plan for each and every critical asset? Do I have the equipment to create separate networks where required? Do I have the right team to implement this? And do I have the right budget? Ultimately, your trusted IT provider can help you there. And a lot of times, when we do onboarding for customers, we always like to start with an assessment for that reason, so we can kind of first understand what they have. It's kind of like a way of detecting, and then from there we create project proposals, budgets to really show them, hey, this is what's going to take for you to have this elevator network on its own. Hey, this is what's going to take to get this building management system on its own network, etc. So
Yeah, we can't prescribe unless we diagnose, as they say.
exactly.
So without complete visibility on the infrastructure, it's very hard to assist and provide a good service without that. But as we wrap up today's journey into the interconnected world of IoT in the building management, we're reminded that the right detection tools are not just a luxury, they are a necessity. In the intricate dance of technology that orchestrates our modern buildings, each step, each smart device needs to be in harmony and, most importantly, secure. I'm Felipe. I'm here with Luis. You've been listening to FnPodcast. Today, we've unpacked how simple yet powerful detection tools can safeguard our buildings' technology backbone, ensuring not just efficiency, but also peace of mind. Remember, in the world of IoT, being proactive about security isn't just smart, it's essential. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to join us next time as we continue to explore and simplify the world of technology. Until then, keep safe, stay informed, and always be ready to detect, to protect.